Okay, this is already getting too long, so I'm going to try to sum up really quickly. Joseph went into Egypt, and his job, although I don't think it was intended, was to rape the whole country. And what they did was they stockpiled food for 7 years, and then came along a drought. Now, how this is a story, so it symbolizes actually quite a bit about what's going on right now. We are starving the world to death. And in doing so, they will give up everything to get food again. So they will give up all their land, they'll give up all their cattle, and this is exactly the story of Joseph. He got all the Egyptians to give up everything they had, and in the end they were happy to work the land and give 20% to the Pharaoh, and the land was owned by the Pharaoh. So that was your first system of, well, it was probably describing the system of taxation, what we still have today. It's not the worst thing you can have, but we can do better. Anyhow, his job was to rob all the Egyptians, and he took his family down there and set them up real fine. He had his 11 brothers and his dad, and then a bunch of relatives, and there was about 70 in all that went to Egypt, and they multiplied and get richer and richer and richer. And then, of course, came a Pharaoh along, and he didn't like them anymore, and so he made them all into slaves because they had the wealth of the land. So it was quickly turned around, and the slaves, of course, struggled for 400 years, and then at the end of it, Moses came along and said, okay, we're going to take all the gold and silver and all the precious things, and we're getting out of here. But first, just give me a break, and I'll get right back to the significance of the Passover. After arguing back and forth with the Pharaoh a bunch of times and doing some terror tricks and whatnot, I mean, you have to read into it because a lot of it's just silly. But anyway, oh shit, I got distracted. Oh, Moses decided before they robbed them of all their gold and silver and everything else, to kill every firstborn son in Egypt. And part of this was because it was tradition back then for the king or Pharaoh to have the firstborn son, so there might be a little bit of father-son things in here, but we're not going to discuss it now. All we're going to discuss is the fact that on the night before they left, everyone slaughtered a lamb, ate the lamb quickly, so that they would have the energy from the meat, the killing energy. Eat some red meat and you'll see what they're talking about. And then they went out and slaughtered all the firstborn sons in Egypt. So, what are we talking, 1 million people? And anyway, whatever it was, it's a story anyway, but the whole thing is, the story has become real because this celebration, the slaughtering of 1 million firstborn Egyptians, obviously they're not all the Pharaoh's children, because nobody can have sex 1 million times, but anyway, however many people were there, and this is the celebration that the Jews are celebrating every year. I don't know when they do it. When's the Passover? I can't remember. But before Jesus got hung on the cross, it was. Anyway, the whole. Why did Jesus celebrate the Passover? Because he was being a Jew. I mean, it's crazy to celebrate the Passover. And why Jesus celebrated, I don't know. I have a feeling he didn't. I have a feeling that the Jews wrote that in there because Paul was a Jew and he made the Bible, not Jesus Christ. But we're getting away from what we're trying to talk about. So one more second, and we're going to finish it up, and then we're going to be done. So all I want to say to you Jews is the Passover feast is a murder festival. And every time you celebrate it, what you're doing is you're saying to Egyptians, and perhaps the rest of the world, perhaps all the Gentiles, because that's what Judaism is, it's the chosen race and the Gentiles. And what you say with your celebration of the Passover feast is, fuck you. You say to Egypt, eat shit. Okay? So if you wonder why people have animosity towards the Jews, think about it for a minute, and think about your arrogance in celebrating a Passover feast, which is genocide. You are celebrating a genocide. I can't even say it. It's getting me all choked up. But my proposal would be is a gesture to the rest of the world. The rest of the world, I mean, the Christians are sort of your daughter company, so most of the Christians don't mind Jews, or most of the Christians are partly Jew. But anyway, there seems to be a big problem between Muslims and Jews right now, and it's called hatred, and a lot of that hatred comes from the Jews, so we have to work on both sides. And I wouldn't say that the Jews are more civilized, but their culture and their religion is older, and they're to a point now where they can see a little bit more clearly what things are. Read the Torah, understand what's going on. It's a fiction story. It is hatred towards the Egyptians and the rest of the Gentiles, and we have to get over that story. And we have to get over being Jews, and we have to tell the rest of the world that we don't think they suck, because that's what you do when you celebrate the Passover feast. So please consider it. I know it sounds absurd to stop doing a tradition that's been a tradition for 4,000 years or 2,500 years, but a lot of traditions are wrong. The tradition of cutting out somebody's heart and holding it up to the sun for the grain to grow is also wrong. So let's try and figure out a bit about reality and stop doing shit that's stupid. I mean, think of another feast. Think of the feast of whatever, the grass growing in the spring. But do not celebrate, please do not celebrate the Passover feast anymore. Boycott the Passover feast. It is hatred. It is propagated hatred towards the rest of the world, and you must make a step towards showing a little bit of protocol, especially right now when there's Muslims all around you, and right now there's just hate bouncing back and forth, and somebody has to pull the plug so the hate starts leaking out. And if you pull the plug right from the very back, I think it could have an amazing effect. If the Jews could say, even if the president of the Jews doesn't like it, each Jew can say, no, I don't celebrate the Passover feast anymore because I don't believe it is good to hate Egyptians. Peace.